Hello, and welcome back to another League of Inches podcast. Supercoach round 3, this one. You've got Jesse and Trav this week. No Joel, unfortunately. He's a bit under the weather. But, we'll hold down the fort for him. We don't have to worry about him talking about how bloody good he went this week and his round rank and all that sort of rubbish, even though he's actually doing quite well. Mate, I'll just throw straight to you, Trav. How are you? How's things going?
Yeah, going well. It's my favourite night of the week, mate.
Yeah,
Favourite
that's
night of
it.
the week. Get to sit down, and it makes it even better because Joel's not here, so we're even happier. We just have
Yeah.
our little bromance can happen and flourish, and off we go.
That's it. Just a quick little back and forth we had. It was pretty good last year actually. We did half the Supercoach shows just me and you. So it's the first one we've just done on our own together now, which is good. Um, Mate, how'd you go this week? Round 2, Supercoach. It was a pretty high scoring affair again. So
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Hey, how high the scores are. I've looked over the last few years, and the scores that are happening this year is just mind blowing. How big they are, and
yeah,
like I've scored 2 weeks in a row where I've scored over 1,200, and I'm
yeah,
still sitting in 34,000th rank. Look, I got
right.
1,245. My season rank rose just under 2,000 ranks. I'm at 34,000. I'm pretty happy with my team. Obviously, I've got a few things I've got to fix, which has been a little bit annoying that I've got to do. I've come to realize that. So, Jesse, I was looking through my private messages. I have 13 teams it's 13 people that are messaging me asking for advice, and 100% of those 13 teams are at least 10,000 ranks higher than I am.
That's unreal.
So, so the message is that I feel like I'm better at giving advice than actually doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing I wanted to say too is I feel like I'm going to be the good guinea pig, right? So I'll be the guinea pig this year. We can trial things on me, and then everyone else in the super coach world will have made the mistakes, or I've done it all good. Now you can then jump on the bandwagon. So I'm gonna sit in there. I'm gonna take that where I'm going at the moment.
That's wild. I don't actually have that many people message me about certain stuff, which is, it's kind of nice in a way, but I do like the questions. Like they get me thinking too about what I can do with my side. And um, yeah, you always seem to go a little rogue. Like even when we have our discussions about what are you going to do next week and this and that, we just you throwing out the most wild suggestions. And you know what? Like realistically, most of them will pay off. It's just whether you have the balls to pull the trigger on them or not. And most of the time we just don't because it's just not, it's not the safe route about it. But yeah, there's definitely points to make. I had a good week this week. I had a really good week. I scored 1381. So um it pushed me up quite a lot. I was it wasn't too bad last round either. I think I was about 28,000, but it pushed me up 22,500 spots. I'm ranked 6,035 now, so I quite like that. 6,000 in round 2. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good, start to the year. I was about, I think 80 to 60,000 at this period last year. So, but it's been a massive scoring week. Like even the last week in general, last 2, there's just been tons after tons, and um, yeah, it's crazy. It's such a weird way to start the year, considering we're so used to pretty mediocre scores, and um, you know, the forwards have been leading the pack. It seems
Oh,
the cheapies have gone
oh,
hard, but the forwards, bloody
yeah.
hell. Tino comes out with a 109, Haas is a 99. Like all these front rowers are hitting tons. So I do like the changing of the guide if it's going to go that way because I'm very keen to stack the front row and just go against the grain. But um, yeah, no, it's been a cracker of a start for a super coach year. We'll get
I
into
got a
Tino's,
challenge.
man.
I got a
Oh, go
challenge
on.
for you,
Sorry.
Jesse. I got a
Yeah, mate.
challenge for you. Now that after round 2, you're at what rank 6,000 and what
35.
35. If you see green arrows for every round for this year, green arrows. That's all you got to do. So you only have to rise one price. You only have to rise one rank. If you see green arrows every single week from here out to the end of the year, I'll buy you a bottle of your choice.
Done. Easy. There's no risk there. I'll take that
There's
every
huge
day.
risk.
What's the what's the risk?
The
What happens
risk,
if I don't?
nothing. You get nothing.
Oh, well, geez. So it seems like there's only reward here
No, so it's a challenge.
or
Yeah,
heartbreak.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm a nice bloke. It's either you're going to get a nice bloke and I'm going to buy you a sweet bottle, or under $100, or I will, or you get nothing. and we
Look,
go, oh,
realistically, man, if I'm seeing green arrows from round 2 all the way to round 27, I'm probably winning Supercoach. And with that 50,
that's
I'll buy
right.
you a bottle.
That's the challenge. That's the
Done.
challenge.
All right, cool. We'll bring it home. Mate, we'll kick off into the first game of the week. God, this is going to be a good one. Grand final, replay, preview, probably. It's Melbourne versus Penrith. So this one's down in Amy Park. Melbourne pretty much 1 to 17 as listed, but they've got Nelson back on the bench now, so that's a pretty big inclusion for him. The rest of the side looks as good as ever, obviously. For the Panthers, a little bit of a change up. They've gone with Tom Jenkins at fullback, so not really what we are expecting. I was kind of half expecting to see Dane Laurie in there, but Jenkins has got the nod. The rest of the pack looks pretty well as it does always. Blaze Talungi's in the 18th man, so yeah, going to be a really good game this one. We'll see how Jenkins goes against Melbourne. That's a pretty big call from Ivan Cleary there. So
Baptism of
um,
fire, 100%.
yeah, throwing him
I've
right into
got
it.
a really quick point that I wanted to say is that
Yep.
Storm are coming off the bye, so that they're not playing that third game. You don't need to it's not a priority to get the Storm, but players, because they don't have a price rise this week, they get it next week. So optimally, that next week is a really good opportunity to get them. However, there's at least 4 guys on that list that you want to get, and you can't trade in 4. So you've got to think about who you might want to get. So Ali Katoa, Jack Howarth, Jerome Hughes, and Harry Grant are pretty high up on people's lists. Maybe not Jerome Hughes, but the other 3 at least are high up on their list. Plus, then you've got Pappenhausen. So there's at least 4, if not 5, if you want to say Hughes, with the way that the market's going. So just have a think about that in terms of either prioritizing who you want to get, or maybe you get one this week just to help out.
Yeah, I think it's a fair call. We'll obviously touch on in a little bit, like quite a lot more detail actually after the team lists are all done. But yeah, this is the week where we expect price changes for the vast majority of the teams because it is round 3. They played their 3 games. This is it. Once they kick over, once they run out, their prices will adjust for the next round. So obviously with Melbourne, they will not. But yeah, still tons of great value in that Melbourne side. Second game, Warriors versus the Roosters. So looking through the Warriors side, it pretty well looks as expected as well. Jacob Laven's 18th man. No real changes there. They kind of come off a really good win, and so did the Roosters actually. So I wouldn't expect too many changes, but there's a few ins for the Roosters this week. Couple of massive ones too. Lindsay Collins is back. Spencer Lenu's back as well, and so is Victor Radley. So, that side was decimated last round in their forwards, and they still managed to pull out a win against Penrith. But yeah, Spencer Lenu and Nafahu White are the starting props now. So Lindsay Collins is listed on the bench. So we'll see if there's any late changes come, kickoff. But Victor Radley's back at lock. Suo Wong's kept the second row spot. So look, they both played really well. It was a really good bounce back for them. They both got some pretty solid wins, and someone's got to lose this week. So it'll be a fair game for both.
Well, I mean, there can be a draw, but that's
Very unlikely.
there is an extra point to before that happens. Hey, full credit to the Warriors for this will be 2 weeks in a row where they've made pretty much no changes. Like after losing in Vegas and then having that massive win last week. Full credit to them for keeping that list. Well done.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. There's a lot of people would have been calling for an axe to be swung with a few players, and yeah, he stuck strong, got himself a win. So next game up, Queensland Derby. This one's at Suncorp, so the Broncos take on the Cowboys. For the Bronx, as usual, there's really no changes for this team. Katoni Staggs is in the reserves, so we'll have to see what happens there when he comes through, because Gemet Shibasaki is obviously will pretty well run that centre spot, I would say. I think, if anything, Mariner could be the one that might make way for Staggs, but Mariners look good too, so something to keep an eye on as well, because he's a very popular cheapie in almost everyone's side at the moment. But yeah, that's the Broncos. They're looking just as exactly as they did last week, hoping for a bit more of a better game. For the Cows, geez, they've got a couple things here. They've got the big one obviously is the number 7. They've just cut Tom Duffy, poor bloke, so he's out. They've brought Tamalolo back into the starting prop role, and they've got Nanai coming off the bench, so a little bit of a shuffle. Jake Clifford takes the 7 now. Yeah, I don't exactly know how I feel about this setup, to be honest, with the Cows. I think, Peyton's doing some things there, and I don't know if they're that good. to be honest with you. Have you got any thoughts about this lineup and this game in general?
Just quickly, you mentioned about Mariner. So Mariner's on the right edge, on the right spot, or right edge. Sorry, I was right the first time. He's taken Staggs' position.
Yep.
So, and Staggs is the right centre. So I think if anyone loses their spot, from what I know of and what I've read, Mariner is also a right centre, not a
Yep.
left. And all of the experience I've had and chat and stuff that I've got is that, it's very hard to swap from left to right centers. So I think Shibasaki has that spot locked up. I'm pretty confident that he's actually got that locked up. So I'm pretty happy
Yep.
to talk about. And Shibasaki's a big play this week. I think he's going to dominate the Cowboys this weekend. And then on the Cowboys wise, look, I feel for Duffy, but I sort of said it right from the get go and all through preseason that he's going to be the one that if they don't produce, he's the one that's going to be on the chopping line. It's easy to get rid of the cheapies. It's easy to get rid of the young ones. It was always sort of on the cards. It was something we had to watch. And I mean, even then, he lost the goal kicking last week too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not ideal. But yeah, no, you're probably right about Shibasaki too. I reckon he's pretty well nailed that spot. It was his, preseason, so Staggs has got to work his way back. But yeah, for the next game, the Sharks and the Rabbits. So the one thing that we can always rely on with the Sharks is that they never change a bloody thing. They're the most reliable, solid 17 that you're going to get out of pretty much everyone. Looking through it, I don't think there's any changes through here, 1 to 17 from what they normally put out. So the Sharks are doing what they do. For the Rabbitohs, Jack Whiten's back. And Fletcher Myers is out on the wing. That Bailey Bentley Haight is gone, unfortunately. So he's out for this round. Well, actually, I don't even know when we'll see him back in there, to be honest. Ravalawa's in the 18th man. So, he's just signed for the Rabbits. I don't know if he'll be getting a run out this week, but probably something to keep an eye on for next round. Probably gets a bit of a blooding then. And Tallis Duncan's been named at lock, even though all the reports are saying that he was injured. But yeah, if he does run out, then cool, Tallis Duncan. Sorry, it's a hard one. We've kind of been waiting for him to get a bit of a run for a long time now. So we'll have to just see what he can do. But Hubner's suspended for 2 weeks. So that's probably the reason why. And I'd expect Hubner to come straight back in with the first 2-round performances he had, because he was very impressive in his first 2 games. So yeah, good game coming up for that one. Next game up, Dolphins and the Tigers. So for the Finns, the same 17. Again, pretty reliable, pretty consistent team list this week. Nothing too notable to be mentioned at all. And for the Tigers, Dream Buller is still named in that side despite wearing a moon boot after the game. So something to definitely keep an eye on with him. He was very impressive last week. Tigers can't wear in general, but yeah, Buller definitely named. Outside of that, the side is as it was last round and are expected to do probably really good things against the Finns this week. So anything there, mate?
Not really. Not really anyone that screams out to talk about here that we're not going to talk about soon.
Yeah, 100%. Titans and Knights. So this one's up in the Gold Coast. Good stuff. Cam Pereira for the Titans is out this week with a hamstring injury, so he's replaced by Tony Francis. Isaac Fasuamaleau is on the bench instead of replacing Jolliffe with a calf injury. So outside of that, team looks as it should. Or no, not really, to be honest with you. Fafita's still on the bench, so that's probably something huge to mention. But Cleese Haas for the moment is still named in the second row, as is. For the Knights, God, they've lost a few forwards here. The back 7 is as it was, but they've lost for the round. Leo Thompson's out with a knee injury. Kai Pearce-Paul is suspended. Brodie Jones has replaced him in the front row with Elliott starting at lock, but they've also lost, in late news that it came out today, Dylan Lucas to a hamstring injury. So essentially in a single week, they've lost both starting second rowers and their main prop. They're quite notable outs for the Knights, and I think they're going to feel the sting, especially coming up against the Titans with the forward pack that they have on paper. Again, they pretty well folded last week quite easily, but look, they replace them with Frizzell. I don't know who exactly, but we'll be seeing take over that second row spot for Lucas. But they've got a lot of next man up basically for them, so I think they should do a decent enough job. But we'll touch on a lot of these guys in a minute anyway. For Sunday, Round the last one, I think. Oh no, second last game we've got here: Eels and the Dogs. For the Eels, Ronald Volkman's been dropped out of the 7, so they've replaced him with Dean Hawkins from the Rabbitohs, a former recruit there. So he comes through. We've got Josh Adokar in the reserve, so I would half expect him to get a start as well. Madison's the 18th man, and Bailey Simonson's not far off either. So they've got a few, for recruits coming back through. For the Dogs, big outs this week. Burton and Kickow are both injured, so I think Burton was 2 to 4 weeks. Kickow 3 to 6, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Same
hard ones.
injury, MCLs, I think.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, they're pretty big ones to lose. They've both been in pretty good form, especially Kickow. Kickow's been red hot to start this year, and they've definitely needed him. So yeah, it is pretty big. They're replacing Burton in the 5'8s with Bailey Hayward. Massive raps on him. We'll see how he kicks off in the 5'8. Not really long enough of a stint, I would say, with Burton's injury for the small period that he's out to really humour as an option. But good to at least see him get a run. And Tupanua, bloody hell. I did sort of have my doubts last week talking about the trade-ins and seeing how highly traded in Tupanua was, but he come away with murder here. So he's he's replacing Kickow on that side, and yeah, it could be really good
Starting.
for it. Yeah, he's starting
Big
now.
minutes
So
starting. That is going to get 100. He's got that 100 in his break even for this week. He's probably going to score again this week against Para.
yeah,
Oh, it's hard
it's
not to have him. It's hard
yeah,
not to have him, and I'm not going to get him.
no. If yeah, that's the thing. If you got him last week, then I would have thought, what on earth are you doing? But now it's paid off massively, and you're probably laughing all the way to the bank. So yeah, it worked out to be a really good trade in. Congratulations. It's very rare for that one, especially for a Tupanua. Um, yeah, Morin and Salika Fafita are on the bench now too. So that's pretty much the aim there. And then going into the last game of the week, Manly versus the Raiders. So Jesus, there's been some bloody talk about this one. Tom Travojevic is named in the fullback spot with 50-50 chances, according to Seabold, that he's actually not going to play. Coming off a scan that didn't see anything at all for some hamstring tightness. So I feel like there's a little bit of silly buggers going on here, but we won't know at all. And we won't have anything that we can do about it if Turbo does get pulled for all the owners out there. Um, Outside of that, with the rest of the side, Takiaho's back in the 10. The rest as is what it looks like always. So that's pretty standard stuff. For the Raiders, massive one actually for a super coach point of view in general with the cheapies at hand. But they've got two coming through with really good break even. So Xavier Savage is back from his suspension. Again, his price won't change for a week because of his suspension. So you do get a week to look at him if there is pressing matters, which there probably is. And the big one that we've all kind of been waiting to see what happens here, Tamale's won the wing spot over Hopewadi. So yeah, that's huge. I was in a way, I was kind of hoping he wouldn't, so we could, do other things and we can get him in a few weeks' time. But no, he's congratulations to him. He's won that spot out, it looks like, and yeah, super low break even, super popular trade in this week. So I think he's definitely got to be on your must list if that's the case. Hosking's out with a broken hand too, so I've been saying about 5 odd weeks for him, 5-6 weeks give or take. Replaced by Matty Nicholson. So debuted last week, freaking killed it too. 2 tries, playing at lock, just solid as anything else. So he's definitely a viable option. But again, same as Savage, he's only played 1 game. So you get another look at him for next round if you need to downgrade anyone or just get a bit more of an idea about his game before any prices change. So it's a really good spot there. But yeah, no, that's the team list in general. So that's pretty much everything gone through. Look, we'll go straight to the main one this week. Like it is round 3. There's a lot of people talking about it. You're going to see more posts about and questions asked because this is the week where, if you've got a boost that you've got stashed away, which you should have 4, 5, I would hope 5, use it. Use it this week. There's a lot of things changing, prices up and down. There's some monster negative break evens. And yeah, even still, if you're pretty happy with the way your side looks and you've got 1 or 2 slight question marks, I would still recommend the boost. And I would still get your cash gen well in order because this is the one that if you miss, God, there's potentially hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're leaving on the table. So I would very much highly recommend getting your boost on and getting some of these cheapies in. Mate,
Jesse, if people aren't using a boost this weekend,
when are you?
then when are you going to? Like, if you don't have one of the injury problems, like there's one trade already, like just with all the bulk amount of injury problems. And then if you're not trying to trade in because not everyone has Tamale and Arthurs as well. Most people are trading. That's why they're both very highly traded in. So you're trading one, and so there's two, and pretty much everyone had Duffy. So you're trying to get him out. So there's your three. So I just don't get how you're not using a boost this weekend with the news of what's going on. This is a week. You got to use it. If you're not going to use it this week, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, no, 100%, man, 100%. There's so many plays to get in. There's a lot of fires to put out. Not to the point of like season-ending injuries that you've got to swap them out for, but I think you've got to be a little bit ruthless with some of these players. If they haven't shown the goods in the first 2 rounds, and there's a guy coming through like Arthur's with a, what is a minus 85 break even or so, like, you got to take the coin when it presents itself, especially early days. Like we'll see cashies throughout the year, but you get yourself on a really good front foot. Just going through, we'll just quickly touch on the most traded in and most traded outs this week, and it's very obvious, to be fair, because it's the break evens, and then we can start talking about some of the really good value break evens per position and kind of see where your sort of priorities lie, because it does depend obviously on team makeup, who you've already got. There's a lot of very popular owned players that are super low break even, and good chances that you've already got them, so you don't have to worry about trading them in this week. So a lot you can do, but for the most popular trade outs, you just mentioned it too, Tom Duffy. He's traded out by 24,500 people at this stage, which is, quite a lot, 11%. His price isn't going to change this week. It's not going to change at all, to be fair, because he's not going to get his third game for the foreseeable future. But unfortunately, he's 198k. He's as low as you can possibly get. So there was absolutely no benefit having him. There was no point getting his scores, and his break even still hasn't really moved. So I feel like he's got to be an out, especially in a very important halfback position. But it opens the doors to a lot of potential trade-ins, especially with the dual hooker owners as well. So if you've got a Sandon Smith with a dual half, I'd say the most popular trades for a Tom Duffy, for a relatively similar price point, you're looking at Starling and Humphreys, and there we'll get into that too, because there's definitely good value in those guys. The next most traded out. Well, sorry, Trav, is there anything you want to touch on with Duffy before I keep moving on?
No. Nah, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Cool. Jackson Purdue, next guy out. So I know we were talking briefly off air about Purdue and his sort of priorities, but he's traded up by 10,000 people. 257k, looks super low break even as it stands, 17. Where would you sort of sit on a Purdue trade?
Yeah, so he's traded out just under 11,000 at the moment. The biggest trade for him is Purdue straight to Tamale, which is at 3,000. So almost with just over like a quarter of that, basically, almost a quarter. So I like that trade. Tamale's there, and I get it. I like that. Tamale's got a break even, I think, of minus 58. It's a great trade. He's also cheaper than Purdue, so I don't mind that. However, I'm sort of looking at it with the idea that I don't see Purdue myself, and I've listened to a few of the other podcasts. I've listened to and read a fair bit about this. And there's a lot of people on the same sort of boat that Purdue's not a must trade out. Like he got 36 last week with a try. He got sin bin for 10 minutes. And so that was 10 minutes of no play. So no stats, plus also minus 10 points. So minimum is at 46 plus a little bit extra. So he would have had a game last week of, I'd say, anything around 50. And if he's got that, no one's really talking about trading Purdue out this week, because he'll pretty much have a minus break even instead of a 17 break even. The Cowboys got a tough draw coming up. I get it, but they still will score points at some point. I think Purdue's still in that line. I'm not going to say that he's got job security locked in, because I don't think he does. But I mean, that they've been flogged the last 2 weeks and he's still there. So I mean, he mustn't be too bad. I think just with everything that's happening and what's going on, Purdue's not a must-have, but I do see, and I don't mind the trade of Purdue to Tamale.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all, to be fair. Like, if he's your only way out, if he's your only option to get Tamale, then do it. You bank yourself about 30 odd K, and you're getting a massive negative break even. I suppose you're kind of right about Purdue with his position too, because they have been belted, and you've obviously seen Duffy, even Nanai got dropped before him. So he's got to be doing something at least half right, and he got himself a try, which is pretty good. But you got to imagine like Labutt's still waiting to come back through. Like he's definitely valid of a spot on that side, and maybe with Burns' injury, kind of lightens the load on Purdue a little bit. So he's moved up the ranks to hold his spot out. But yeah, it's more dependent. Like it's still, I would probably try and find another way and just at least hold him for a week or so, just to see if
Yeah,
he
that's
makes some
right.
coin.
I mean, the trade straight underneath it, that's just only 7 trades less than the one to Tamales to Arthur's. So they've needed 100K to get that to happen.
Yeah,
And that's at 3,000. So 6,075 trades for Purdue have been to Tamale and Arthur's, which is basically split in half. So,
yeah,
they're good trades. They're definitely 2 dudes you need to get in. But not necessarily a Purdue. So for me, as we'll talk about over the show, I'm not trading Purdue because I can't. I've got other things I've got to fix in terms of what I'm seeing. So, and I'm happy. I'm taking a best of the worst kind of scenario here, and I'm going to keep Purdue and be happy with that.
yeah. No, that's fair too. And even just thinking about like people trading up Purdue to get to a Jesse Arthurs, for example, like that trade in itself is probably going to cost you about 80K. It's like you're half expecting Arthurs to make 100K, so realistically, you've just netted 20. Um, so it hasn't been as lucrative as really as it could have been if you've gone down from
That's
someone
right.
else and tried to bank a little bit. Like you're still spending up to make it back. So I would still try and find another way to do it, unless you've done a boost and you found yourself with an extra couple 100K. And then I would probably go, yeah, 100% get it in, because Arthur's, realistically, Arthur's scores 30 points this week against the Cowboys, which is probably, he's probably going to triple that, if anything. Um, a 30-point game from Arthur's this week will make him 85K. So, he's averaging what, 95 at this stage. If he does it again, he makes 132 and goes into a Dolphins game with a minus 41 break even. That's monstrous. And he scores, say, a 50 in that one. All of a sudden, we know by round 5, Jesse Arthurs is 550K. You know what I mean? So, like, that's on that side, I would definitely go, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you make that coin pretty quickly. It's going to take Purdue probably a little bit to make some money. And I just don't see where the cows kind of make those points up, especially moving forward now when the prices change weekly. But um, third most traded, bloody hell, Jerome Luai. People cutting ties with him already. So 582K, dual 5'8" halfback. Um, I wouldn't have expected Luai to be so high up on this list, but I'm not exactly too sure why. I know
Break
he,
even.
break
Of
evens. Yeah,
111.
that'll do it. Yep.
Scored at 54 against Newcastle and a 19 against Para. Just hasn't
That's brutal.
really looked good. Like, we all predicted Luai to sort of take on that role that he had when he played for Penrith and Cleary went out. That ball playing, this is my team kind of role, and off we went. And he just hasn't really shown that. I kind of predicted that that's what he would do. I think it was more like I said at the start of the season that he's not on my watch list because I think he's going to be more of a setup, build
Mm.
culture, do get the ball and do some things before he takes control, before he does any of those sorts of things. But yeah, at 582 with a break even 111, playing the Dolphins this week in Brisbane.
Yep.
I can see why he's being traded out. I think Dolphins will be much better this week. They were at home the whole time. They've been waiting for this weekend. So yeah, I can see, I like the trade out.
Yeah, definitely do. With 111 break even, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be wanting to get him out too. His most popular trade in is Cam Munster. To be fair, I love that. Even this week against Penrith, I think Munster's always a big dog in the big games. So, yeah, definitely lock him in. I've already got Munster, and I'm super glad for it. So there's one trade I don't have to worry about this week. But yeah, no, I don't mind that at all. Actually, it's pretty good. Number 4, Zach Hosking. So yeah, big time ouch for the Hosking owners. He started off hot, broken hand. He's got to go, unfortunately. But yeah, what a week to do it. He's a pretty popular trade out, and the biggest one that everyone's kind of leaning towards for the big hitters. It's not really, in a way, he actually is a cashy, to be fair, because of his average. But Payne Haas is a super popular trade. Between Payne Haas and Tino, obviously you can't really go wrong with either of them. But again, it is 150K you've got to find to get Haas. But if you're going anyone down to a Tamale or an Arthurs, then that 150 you'll come up with it very, very easily. So yeah, anyone doing that trade, God, I love that.
Oh yeah, I do. I think the Hosking to Tino is a bit of a no-brainer though. Like I just feel
Oh,
like
it's
that's
same
it's
price,
it's
really, isn't it?
basically it's 20K difference. It's almost a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
Um, I think Hosking to Haas is a great trade too, but I would do the Hosking to Tino and I'd rank that first, and I'd find another way to get Haas.
Mm. Yeah, I suppose it just depends on how much money you have, but really, like for the 150 odd difference that Haas is to Tino, like I would think that 150, you can do so much with. And I'd be very happy to have Tino in my side. I do. It's great. But yeah, no, Haas, man, look, he's got a 9 break even. So it's one of those things like when you're going to get Haas with a 9 break even, he's averaging 100 basically. So 101 and a half. That's insane numbers for him. But yeah, technically, Tino's averaging more. Um, God, there's some big hitters. I love round 3. It's so fun for it. Number 5, God, this is insane. Tom Turbo. Um, Yeah, look, we don't know, do we? It's a tricky one with Tommy Turbo. I suppose we can get into a lot of detail with this because we both have him. A vast majority of the super coaches in the world there have him as well. God, what do you do? We don't know any. We don't have any clarity. What do you
It's
reckon?
so hard, hey, because not only have we heard the news of what's going on, he plays the last game of the round. So
Yep.
it's just such a pain. We're probably not going to hear about it until the 24-hour mail, which is Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, which doesn't give us a hell of a lot of time to fix that problem, which potentially allows you to go, like a turbo to a Starling, but you better hope that your jewels and stuff haven't played before that. Like this is just a pain in the ass, to be honest. Like the Roosters play Friday night at 5 o'clock, so Sam Smith's getting locked in, so you're not dueling around with a few bits and pieces, and yeah. This is screaming to me like I can see why people doing it, and I'm starting to think around what I do here, and do I
Yep.
do it lock away? The worst thing about this though is that I'm going to do it and he'll end up playing, and I'm just going to be absolutely furious.
Yep. And
So,
you'll
yeah.
be gutted too because they play Para next week. Like you want to have him for it.
And I
It's
can't
hard.
I can't justify it waiting till to see whether with a trade in the bank, waiting to see whether Turbo plays. Like it's hard. I need to
Mm.
get these things fixed and do it now.
Yeah.
Um, but look, as soon as Turbo did his hammy, everyone started to get worried. So
Yeah. Of course. It's round
it
2 when he
was
did it. It's
round
concerning.
two. He didn't play overly well, still got himself a high 50 score, like because he's turbo, and missed a big chunk of the game. But yeah, as soon as they saw that he did his hammy, everyone was like, yeah, we've got to get off turbo. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, when he got named last night, I went UB. I'm not worried about that. And then news came out today from Seabold about the 50-50, and I went, oh no. Potentially he doesn't play this week. Uh, I think that's it's not dire straits like I'd like, but the problem is that a lot of us are running Pongy and then Iongi.
Mm.
And I don't really want to play Iongi, so I've got to play Ponga, um, which means I've got to swap things around. So maybe the only way for me to do this is I have to put Iongi into the flex, put Ponga into the fullback, and then have Turbo with an R. And if he doesn't play, I take the R and just take an AE potentially.
Mm.
I've got my other option that I could do, which I don't want to do, but is to go Turbo down to Saab and just save that one trade for that time. But I actually need to do that. I need the money to do other trades, so that doesn't work for me either.
Yeah.
So, like to me, I've just got no other options. It's either I ride and die and hope and pray, um, or I make the trade now and hope and pray and ride and die that way too.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like regardless, you're rolling the dice either way. You're rolling the dice that he's injured, and you're like, sweet, I've got all this money now, and he's injured, don't have to worry. Or yeah, you get around to Sunday afternoon, and there's Tommy Turbo running out, terrifying the shit out of you because you just traded him out for no reason. So I suppose it is early days, and it's quite concerning that he's already got hamstring scares and concerns in round 2. It doesn't really bode well for a season long carry, which is, what we never really see out of him. But yeah, look, man, 7,800 people are trading him out. He's $875,000 with 105 break even, which is very easy for him. So I'm not concerned about his break even. He doesn't play this week. You don't have to worry about a price change in general. You can carry him into a para game. Hopefully he's named. That's what I'm going to go with. To a very similar point, what you mentioned about Turbo going into your fullback too. I'll probably put Iongi in my flex. Just have to do it. He might even be the lowest score in my team, funnily enough, and I might not even get his score potentially. So won't matter. But yeah, I'll be looking at putting a reserve on him, and if it doesn't play out that he actually runs out, I'll just move it to a Raider, Tamale potentially if he's on my bench. So yeah, you sort of have to make contingencies this week for Turbo, which is a bit of a shame. We've just seen him get onto it all, but yeah, that's a big one. But it does put a shitload of money into your bank. And I guess if you're putting him in your flex, you can kind of trade him to anyone, even in that Manly side, because there is a couple in there you could go to a sub last minute if you did bank the trade. But yeah, so I don't know if I would. Number 6, Jermaine Hopgood. He's a very popular trade out this week, over 100 break even. Eels just haven't looked apart. So, funnily enough, too, he's basically the same price as Payne Haas. So just do yourself a favor and make the swap. I would say. What do you
Yeah.
reckon?
I mean, if you can, a lot of the people that have been private messaging me have wanted to trade out Hopgood and have made that trade, but they also own Dylan Lucas. And after the recent news today, they were like, "Oh, right, I think that has to be a change." So I think if you're a Hopgood and Lucas owner, that news is a bit annoying for you. With Dylan Lucas not playing the next 2 rounds, I actually think he's probably a higher trade out option than he is as a Hopgood, and bring him back later.
Yeah. I suppose it depends on the way you want to look at it. I was looking at trading Hopgood to Dylan Lucas this week, and I had it locked in, basically as soon as the week unlocked. But again, I've reversed that today. Look, Hopgood's got 100 and... Oh, geez, I just lost it. I think it's about 104 break even. Dylan Lucas isn't going to lose any money. 107 break even, sorry, for Hopgood. And Lucas won't lose anything. So if you reckon you can hold Lucas for a week and you've got coverage for him and you don't want to lose any money, you could do the Hopgood trade out now and, get in whoever you need to get in, profit on it, and then trade Lucas out the following week. But if it's only a 2-week injury, I'd rather just hold him. So I suppose you've got to weigh it up between what are your potential losses and if it matters to you or not. Or if you just want to have a playable player who's still scoring quite well, to be honest with you. Like it was a 58 and then a shitty game
He's
where
averaging
nothing went his
51.
way.
Yeah, he's got a
And a
51
42.
average, playing 68 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, conditions-wise, it wasn't great for him in 2 games that they've got belted.
Yeah.
So he's still doing okay, but that's the issue, and that's why we're trying to get rid of. That's why we're trading him out, just because he's still doing okay, but they've been belted 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And in all likelihood, they've been saved with the kick-out Burton injuries out. That potentially the Bulldogs don't belt them this week either, but. Yeah, so he's, I think based off the play this week, I think Hopgood's in for a 60 or 70, and if he gets that, he's not dropping that much. So,
Exactly.
you don't have to trade Hopgood. Like it's the age-old argument of you buy these guys as premiums, you deal with the ebbs and flows of the price rises, and just don't even look at it. Just watch the average go up and down, and watch the prices and the money watch the points coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fair point, yeah. I suppose which way do you want to go about it? You take the playable players when they're available. He's probably better than who you've got on the bench anyway. He's still a gun. It's probably Hopgood. Number 7, your boy Kyo Weeks. Yeah, he's I'll let you run all of this one actually because God, he's a very valid trade out, isn't he?
I think he's way more than a valid trade out.
I think he's a priority trade out.
I think you've got to get rid of him. Like he's got an enormous break even of 114. He's at 530K. So, he's predicted a 50K price drop on a projected score of 47. He potentially gets another 20 or 30, and that's even more. And now you're stuck with a mid to 4. Well, you're going to either end up with a mid to high 400K 5'8", who's not playing well. Well, as in he's playing fine. Like this is funny. Like Weeks is playing his role and playing fine. It's not resulting in Supercoach points because the team's just playing so well in front of him. The forwards are just killing. Their pack is just killing at the other team's packs, and then the ball's going out to the wings, and Kyle Weeks is not having to do the big runs and get that link up passes and stuff like that. So I mean, he's getting his spot because he's playing well, but it's not attending to Supercoach points. I've got Kyle Weeks, unfortunately, and I can pretty much single-handedly call that one the reason why I've only been getting mid 1,200 points is because he's only getting 20, and I think it was 30 the week before, 33. Whereas the one dude that I wanted to get in before him is a lot cheaper, has made over 100 points more. So like I get those 100 points on that and I'm sitting in the top 10K. So it's frustrating for me. It was a pod that I wanted to do based off what I saw in preseason. It hasn't worked out and I've got to get rid of him and he's got to go. Should I tell you who I want to get to?
Oh, of course. Don't let me
So
hang.
I'm going a big pod play with this one. I'm going him out, and it's Chanel Harris Tavita.
I don't mind that. He's got a really good break even. He's actually scored really well too. The only drama is the Warriors bye in round 5.
He's got, and I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. So he's 330K. I think he's locked in that spot. I think he's locked that spot down. He's keeping TMM out, right? And Metcalf on the weekend was phenomenal. And I think the way that they've just found a little blend and they're working off each other really well. They're both ball carrying halves. And I think that's what really helped with Wade Egan. And Wade Egan's then come out and been that sort of shore up shot, run the ship, set that up why Wade Egan was so good last week. And I think they've just found a really nice groove. He's got a break even of minus 21 at 330K. He's averaging 62.8 on the back of a 51 and a 74. 62.5 on the back of a 51 and a 74, both in 80-minute games. Plays the Roosters this week, plays the Tigers next week. I'm comfortable that he's going to get at least a 50 in both of those games. His price is going to be around 500K by then. And I'll be very, very happy to have that. And then round 5, he's got the bye. Yep, and I've got the bye with him, and I've got the bye with Metcalf, and I've got the both of them. And this is the benefit of having a flex. It's your best 17 scores. So what this means that is in round 5, I get a free looping opportunity. Although I've got enough, I've got a free looping opportunity to loop a Cleary who plays the Cowboys at home.
Oh my God.
So I could do that. I've got, I can sit there and do those sorts of things and be happy with it because that score I'll automatically get an AE. And hopefully by then I've knocked off some of these lower scoring players, e.g. Duffy's, now Weeks. Hopefully Goz has lifted up. And I don't have to worry too much about the AE, and my 17 scorers out of the 18 is sitting there. So the flexes come in handy for that. I'm not so worried about having two New Zealand blokes in my 5'8" having the bye at the same time.
That's fair. No, really good points, and it's very valuable information for anyone out there too, because the flex is going to get rid of the lowest score anyway. So, treat yourself to one. Free loops. The next, keeping the trend actually with the 5'8s going, Matty Burton's the next one traded out for obvious reasons. He's injured. 650K, same as Dylan Brown, who's 650K but just playing poorly. So, very popular, high break evens, a lot of really good options for him. And then Dylan Edwards ends the top 10. Look, Dylan Edwards as an option wasn't really a valid one to start the season with, unfortunately, but he's got 140 break even and he's injured. So he's going to come back and then plummet in coin. Might be a pretty nice pickup, but I'd imagine he's selected for Origin. So I don't know if there's really any time this year for some Dylan Edwards love. I'm probably going to be a little too late before we start looking into him. You can just shift the conversation over into the trade-ins, but I'd like to probably go just over, in general, the break-evens, because they're kind of going to dictate where we're sort of sitting on the popular trade-ins. So, um, by position, there's quite a lot. Almost every single position, actually, I think there is every single position so far has a pretty solid negative break-even option for someone somewhere. Center wing obviously has about 400, but we'll kick off into the hookers because God, there's been a few that have exploded here. Tom Starling minus 58, Sandon Smith minus 51, Mamazelis minus 35, and just a bit of a smoky Pakes with a minus 21 as well. So um, I would imagine that over 50, 60 odd percent already have Sandon Smith. So he's a very viable play already, and he's going to make some money. But yeah, Tom Starling minus 58, and I suppose a bit more unspoken, Mamazelis minus 35. Trav, are you looking at getting in? Well, I know you've got Mamazelis and Sandon, like myself and like most would. Tom Starling this week, super popular trade in.
Yes. So before Turbo news, my trade was Duffy via Jules, Duffy out, Starling in, up into the hooker spot. So, and I put Sandon Smith down to the halfback. Sandon Smith's a must keep. I think after the weekend of watching Mamazelis, who was on my trade radar last week, and what he did on the weekend, he's a must keep. So I had to find a way to get Starling in. Now, he's going to be in enormous amount of teams. Well, not an enormous amount. He's just under 17,000, and I think he was only about 5% owned in round 2. So it'll rise. It's not going to rise an enormous amount. Hang on, what was it? Yeah, 5% selected in the teams as of round 2. So he's going to be slightly more than higher than a pod play. It'll be around 15, 20% owned.
Still quite low.
So it's not as high as you think. So he's still roughly a bit of a pod play. I keep hearing all this talk around, buy beware with Starling. Owen Paddy's still there. Well, Owen Paddy's been there the last 2 weeks and Starling still played. It's this talk around Sticky Ricky and not trusting him and blah, 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 blah. And if Starling misses a tackle or whatever, Ricky will bench him. Well, I hate to tell you, but he's had a couple of those mistakes in the first 2 weeks and still scored enormous amounts and has still got minutes. So I actually think Starling has locked that in. And whilst they are winning for the next few weeks, I think it'll be a few weeks and not a game play, right? Starling has earned a couple of mistakes, has earned a few things. Starling has earned his right to play that role at that amount of minutes for the next few weeks. Starling is a must-have to get.
I'm going to second pretty much everything there. I'm getting Starling in this week. For the same thing, I'm getting Duffy out, moving Sandon Smith into my halfback and getting Starling in. And I'm doing that over the like of a Jamie Humphreys as well. Even though I've got massive raps on that fella and he's bloody good to watch. I just think with Starling's upside and his current price, the break even, the projections, there's so much value with him. And look, if you've got a Mamazelis already and you've got Sandon, you've got a couple of these hookers, or even if you've got like a Connor Watson stashed away in your second row, you can almost go anywhere with it. But I just think for the short term, call it even to round 6, 7, give or take there, where they play Parramatta and the Titans round 6 and 7. There's some very favourable matchups for him. And I don't think Starling's going to go anywhere in between then. There's every chance we see him sitting in the 550s, 600s by then too. Just a couple of light projections on his score. Obviously, he's averaging 80 at the moment. Say he scores 60s for the next 5 weeks, puts a 60 against Manly with his break even. By next round, he'll make 90k. Going into the Cowboys, round 4, I reckon he scores a lot more than 60 in that game. But say he scores 60, he'll go into the Cronulla game priced 500k, and that's 2 weeks. That's by round 5, he's 500k. So for that alone, I feel like he's a stepping stone to a gun half. If you wanted to bring Sandon back up, I would probably chase the upside on the half side of things and do that move more than I would think about getting another hooker. But he's like, you can always go from him to Harry Grant. And Harry Grant's only going to be, 100, 150k away from him as well. So, yeah, it's a very quick cash grab. You probably could, ride Starling out into the sunset too if he does keep doing what he's doing. But, yeah, he's probably my number one priority I would say, for most players in general. next to like a Jesse Arthur's. But outside of that, Mamazelis, if you don't have him, I do like that too. But you were going to
Yeah.
say, Trav?
I was just going to say one other thing to factor in that trade instead for Duffy, and I know we're talking hookers here, but we sort of covered Humphreys. Is Humphreys and the Rabbitohs play the Sharks this weekend, then play Penrith,
Yep.
then play the Roosters, then play Cowboys, but then got the Bulldogs, then got the Storm. So like a couple of games in there in terms of the Roosters and the Cowboys, but there's a possibility, but by round 5, Roosters are continuing on a bit of the form that they've got. That might be a tough game for them, and Cowboys may have worked it out by round 6. Like I doubt it, but there's those sort of possibilities. So the tough draw for the Humphreys over the next. There's every likelihood that Humphreys doesn't go his 50 like he has been getting, and he gets a 25-30. And although he's at minus 25. That really stunts his growth. And then you're stuck with also by about round 5, round 6, they talking Mitchell's back.
Yeah.
So does Mitchell then come in and take the goal kicking and that sort of stuff? So I like the play of Humphreys. I do. And I think it's a really shortcut cash grab for you. But I just think Starling for 40K more is just is a much safer, better play. It's not even 40K, it's like 37ish or something like that K. It's just a little bit is a safer bet as a play than the Humphreys.
Yeah, I would say so. And it does hurt a bit with Latrell coming back through, obviously. And I feel like there's less security around Humphreys, funnily enough, than there is around Starling, even though everyone's saying, Ricky Roulette with the hookers, even though we've not really seen Levi ever get a mention and Paddy's playing 10, 15 minutes like he has been. So, Humphreys comes in, he scores 50 against Cronulla, for example. He makes 50, 60K. Then he goes into Penrith. He doesn't score good there, and then it's going to instantly stun his cash growth. If he scores 35 against Penrith, going into round 5, he's going to have a 40 break even, which is, against the Roosters, he might hit a 40, and then all of a sudden, like you're stuck with a 400K halfback, who is honestly, he's very impressive, and I think he's going to score, he's actually going to score well. But again, I think just go the Starling route if you've got the extra bit of coin. I think it's just going to pay off a bit nicer. For the front rowers, again, there's not a lot of upside so far in what we already have, because pretty much, I would imagine the majority already have like a Terrell May and a Horsburgh, who have been scoring exceptionally well. But we've also seen the likes of Tino and
Terrell
Haas.
May. Terrell May is a freaking monster, man.
What an animal.
Did you know it was 38 degrees on the weekend? I didn't realize it was 38 degrees in that game.
It was stinking hot down this way, man. It was a freaking scorcher over the weekend down like Sydney way in general. But
what a freak!
it was horrid.
Humans should not be able to do what he is able to do. He's a freak.
He's nuts, isn't it? Just on Terrell May, he's got a 24 break even. Price of basically just under 600. We're seeing him put out 80s like they're nothing. So I'm just going to go up and say,
this is what we all wanted. This is what we all predicted. Everyone predicted it. We all got him.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly how it's played out. Terrell May with minutes, he's going to outdo it 1.3, give or take points per minute. Guy's a monster. He scores 80 against the Finns. He's going up to 640K, 35 break even. I'm just going to call it another 80 against New Zealand. He's almost 700K, and I think that just keeps going up, to be honest. I think, before you know it, he's 700,000, 750 by round 7, 8. Unbelievable.
To be fair, bro, like
You're
the
never
only
trading
reason I'm never trading him, so I don't care. Like I predicted what he was doing. We all did. Everyone did. That's why he's so well owned. We've put him in that spot because we know he's going to get up to there. I don't care where he's at. I just want to watch the points come in, and I'll ride with those ebbs and flows because he's a freak. The thing is, if you haven't got him, bloody hell, I'd love to see what your front row forward was like. But I'd also like to see the rest of your team because that would mean that you've started with your Tarpanies, your AFBs, and those sorts of things. You put a bit of money into that when you had 590K to put in a May.
Bit of a smoky one, because I haven't really ever come across a side this year that doesn't have a Terrell May. But if you don't have him, how far up the priority list is he to get in this week?
Well, first of all, he's owned by 52% of teams, so it's only 48% of others that we're
So
we're
that's
thinking
what,
about here.
75,000 players. It's pretty big. It's quite a lot
I'd
of
love
people.
I'd love to know where those people are in the ranks. Is he a
He'd be 100.
priority? Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Now the question is, would you take him over Haas?
big question. Haas is 60K more. 60K more for what might be thereabouts the same. Because honestly, like I've got them both, and I'm so freaking glad I've got them both. And I'm looking at it going, I just want to keep these 80 plus scores on front rowers rolling in. But I don't know. It's a hard question, to be honest with you. I would probably, yeah, if I had to pick one, gun to head, I'm probably taking Haas, to be fair. But it's a hard
Yeah,
one.
one average is 101, one average is 82.
Well,
One
that's 20
plays
point.
one plays
Massive.
for a a premiership contending team. The other one is playing for a potential spoon. Uh,
I wouldn't call them that bad.
I
There's definitely
think
worse teams this year than the
there
Tigers.
is definitely worse teams, but potentially is what I said. Keyword there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm going Haas every time.
Yeah, but I honestly don't really think there's too much in it, to be fair. I just think like Haas has come out swinging, but we didn't even think about Haas before the round one. Um, yeah, but even still, like they're both obviously fantastic options. If you don't have May, I would be looking at getting him in as soon as possible. But for a front row that actually has a negative break even, Corey Horsburgh. Big
Oh,
red. Yeah, look, if you didn't have him to start, then what are you kind of doing with your life? But minus 33 for Corey Horsburgh.
well, he's 58% of teams owned in as of the weekend, and he's just been bought by another 6,000 or almost 7,000 teams, which takes him to 97,000 teams. So
Holy shit.
he's yeah, so he's yeah, that's an easy
Everyone's
one.
got him. That's an
Everyone's
easy one.
got
You
him.
got,
Good job.
yep, 100%. Lock him in. A couple other notable mentions for the negatives in the front row is Hamish Stewart, 198K, bottom dollar cheapie. We'll see what happens with Clemmer signing, but he's minus 25. So if you needed to go down from a Royce Hunt, for example, because I love that example there, it's like almost 60K in it for like that's so much money. Literally going from Royce Hunt to a bottom dollar cheapie,
Yeah.
like massive.
I'd like to have him, to be honest. The buy this week is optimal. It's very nice. He's not someone you get in this week, but yeah, I'm a bit concerned about the recent signings.
Mm, so am I. Yeah, because Gula's doing really well there too. He's got a break even of 2, which is nice, and he's only about 300K. So they've got some options, but yeah, they have just brought in another forward. So we'll see if he can make some coin in round 4. Obviously, you'll take that, and if he drops out of the side entirely and he becomes enough, then he's enough. That's not bottom dollar, and you could probably do something a little bit with him anyway. But I do like him. I was almost going to start with him in round 1. Ended up going the actual nuff route in the dual position. So yeah, Hamish Stewart doing good things. Gula with a 2, Tino with a 5 after his 109 off the weekend, and yeah, obviously Payne Haas we mentioned with a score of 9, which I would almost consider a massive negative break even for anyone else. Payne Haas with a 9, he's a near must have. So front row doing good things this year. For the 2RFs, just going into the negative side of the break evens, a couple of the cheapies are really standing out here for us. Obviously, we've got Hubner with a minus 23. He's been fantastic, almost to a point where I'm considering playable in your starting 13. To be honest, like you can almost lay him out there and just run with that cheapie, because you're probably going to get 50 out of him. To be honest, like I really like it. But again, he is suspended for 2 weeks, so it really throws us. But I'm happy to just leave him sitting on the bench and waiting.
To be
Give him a
fair,
couple of weeks.
if he's going to get suspended at any time in this year, the next 2 weeks is probably not a bad time to get suspended. Sharks and Penrith, then he gets to come back against the Roosters. So, like,
Pretty good.
I'm not too disappointed that Hubner's not playing the next couple of weeks because
Yeah, no, that's
there's a very high chance that he nuts out a 20 odd and stunts everything against
yep,
these next 2 teams. So, whereas I think he's got a better chance against the Roosters in a grudge game
yeah,
to nut out a decent score. He is literally the love child of Wayne Bennett. You can see when Bennett talks about Hubner, the eyes turn into love hearts, and
yeah. He
you
gets
can
a little
see the
sparkle
heart.
in him.
You can see the heart pump out of his chest. He loves him. He's going to play. That's his spot. He's loving it. Yeah, and he's playing well. Like he's been a beast, and he's really not done. He really hasn't had a lot of attacking stats for it. He's just been a working machine, and I love it. And if anything can pick up, I think that pack and that that Rabbitohs pack is a good opportunity for points. So as he sort of gets better, his points are going to get better. Yeah, he's a keeper. Don't trade him.
Yeah, no, he's definitely one you can just sort of ride out and kind of see where he sort of plateaus. If he's going to be that, 45, 50 pointer, it's not a bad thing. At least let him get the cash up a little bit more, because he is super cheap and he's probably going to be starting lock for, until Murray's back essentially. But I do like that.
In 2026.
Yeah, for a long while. One that's sort of come out of nowhere actually. Well, just last week. Obviously Nicholson, we sort of spoke about him in the team list, getting that starting second row spot over Hosking now with his broken wrist. He's got a -26. Again, we get another look at him, which is really handy too. So there's a couple of second rowers here that aren't changing price for a couple of weeks. But yeah, the -26, good things. I reckon he does really well on the second row, and I'm probably looking at, I don't know, maybe something in the next week or two, looking at bringing him in over. He's a really handy downgrade option,
Yeah.
if he can continue on like he was obviously last round. So
I've literally got everything crossed that he has another monster game this week. Anything around 50, 60 really helps me. I've got everything crossed that Seyfarth keeps close to his score, because I'll go Seyfarth down Nicholson, and then I can push a Noffa White to Tino next week. Thank you very much.
oh, that's an awesome trade. Well, like the benefit of it is I don't think Say Fast break even's really far off what his price is. If anything, he might just sort of hit at a
Yeah.
zero. But yeah, Nicholson, if he scores 60 against Manly, which I reckon he does, to be honest, I reckon if he gets, because what is he? He's taking Hosking's spot. We don't really know because Hosking's minutes are a bit skewed. But if he gets, anywhere from 60 to 80, which is probably likely now with Hosking out, call it a 60 pointer. He goes into the North Queensland game. It is up there as well, but with a -51 break even. And then, he's one of the best looking cashies that we're going to have on the market in round 4.
Yep.
So, yeah, big eyes on Nicholson at the moment. I think he's going to be a fantastic trade in next week. We got the Goz, bit of an odd one last week. He didn't play too many minutes and he scored pretty much bugger all anyway, but he's on a -10 still. So, yeah, look, Gujeski, if he can just, get his 35s, he will get you some sort of price rise. It might be very minimal, but again, we just have to wait and see what happens. He could be, if he gets himself close to 300k, he could be your way to Nicholson, if you wanted to abandon ship. And I'm half considering that myself. That might be where I'm looking at, just depending if I need
I'm
to go up or
very
down.
concerned about him. Very concerned. I played 48 minutes last week. Only had 5 runs. Only ran for 31 meters.
Yeah,
Not a single tackle bust. Not a single line break. And only 13 tackles. So for a number 11, to only do that in 48 minutes is just,
very
yeah,
bad.
it's a concern. Word is that during the week, that he was training with the opposing team in training, which is a concern. Yeah, I actually don't mind the trade of Goz out. If you can get him down to even just a Nicholson straight away, I don't mind that. I have concerns about the Goz.
Yeah, me too. It's unfortunately it's 100k to get to Nicholson, but I think it's almost worth finding that 100k and just doing that because yeah, they're two very different players. Nicholson looks like an absolute workhorse. Again, he did score 2 tries and they were pretty good ones, but yeah, I think even just still, it's what we're kind of worried about with Goz. But it looked like he'd done enough to win the spot, but now that the minutes almost split clean in half, it's like, oh god, they're very bad options in general. Just a couple little ones. There's not too many of the negatives in the second row spot. They've actually been quite poor, to be honest. Like there's a lot of guys at the very top end that are dropping in coin. We saw Olakawatu and Yo score pretty poorly this week. Which coming off round 1 scores of 190, like they both killed it. They both come back to earth. Obviously, we've got Guns at the top. Angus Crichton sitting at like 120 odd break even. So they're all sort of expected to drop anyway. The most impressive would have been like a Dylan Lucas, who's in that low 20s, but again, now he's injured for a couple of weeks. So it's really just thrown it. The second row spot's kind of muddy. Satili Tupanua, does in a way become an option. He's got a break even of 1, but again, you mentioned as well that 100 that scored in the first round is going to drop out quite quickly, and we'll just have to see what he does against it this week. And Suo Wong -1, where did that come from? He scored 70 odd last week, and price at 300. I still don't know if I'd want to do it, but now we finally got Suo Wong with a low break even and a starting second row spot, and I'm hesitant. I don't really feel like I want to go there.
No, I don't either. And with the boys that have just come back and the potential that the Butcher fellas are back and all sorts of things, like Lindsay Collins is on the bench. Yeah, I'm not super keen on the Wong. And as a White owner, I'm a little bit worried about that as well. But White might be a really good 1 or 2 week price rise for me to try and get to a Tino.
Yeah, realistically, round 3, you're not doing anything to get yourself a Suo Wong into your side. There's bigger fish to fry. Into the half talk, there's a couple things going on here, obviously, with the Duffy news. We've talked about it 1,000 times already, but yeah, Sand and Smith, you've got Humphreys. We obviously, we set our thoughts on getting Starling over the 2, but either way, if you're getting in Humphreys, I honestly don't think it's a bad trade. I'm not, bagging anyone that's going for the Humphreys instead of Starling, because we kind of know how things have been for him. Yeah, I guess you just sort of have to look at what your priorities are. But there's one that's in here that I've seen a couple people sort of mention, and I really like the play, to be honest, because Adam Reynolds, he's sitting on a -16 break even. What is he? Just over 500k, goal kicking, playing the next 4 games at Suncorp, obviously in a much more improved side. I really like it. I'm very tempted. Like Adam Reynolds, God, he's traded in by almost 2,000 people this week.
Yeah, it's a very quick fire cash grab to try and then push him to anyone.
Yeah, like a Hines or
as a
Hughes.
gun, or jewels around and go from there. I like it. I'm very keen on it. I can't do it. I'm not going to lie. I can't do it, and I'm very jealous of people doing it. This is the type of move that I like to do, that I'm not able to do this week, which is shattering. But it is what it is. I love it. Love that move. Yep. I think it works out, and it gives you so many opportunities for to be able to play the field moving forward. He's 500k.
Yeah.
Like, he's cheap. He's not expensive. He's at a good price, and before you know it, he'll be 650.
Yeah, well, easily. Like, he's come off the back of 105 in round 1, where they obviously cleaned up too. It was very good. But then last week, in a loss, he scored 69.
69.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really good things, man. Really good things. I suppose the only thing that you do have to make a sort of mental note with is obviously his body fails him every single year.
Yeah, and let's
hope
that
it's
it
not
doesn't.
In the next couple of rounds.
Let's hope that it doesn't in the next couple of rounds. But to be fair, Queensland, he's got the Cowboys, Suncorp, Dolphins, Suncorp, West, Suncorp, Roosters, Suncorp, New Zealand over there, Bulldogs, Suncorp, Penrith, Suncorp. Like, if he's going to have those good teams in the Bulldogs and Penrith, and where do you want him to have it? At Suncorp. And he's got that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of the next 7 is at Suncorp. It's just
that's out of control.
Unreal.
Yeah, I think it's super obvious. It's staring at us. It's glaringly obvious as is the play. Especially playing the Cowboys this week. My God, what do you reckon he scores this week?
80. I'll put it above, or here we go. You go above or below. I think 80 is the break even. Go.
I reckon he scores above 70. I got to call it above 70. It's endless.
Go below 80.
Yeah, I'll go below 80. But
below
even
80.
still, calling it an 80. Next week he'll be 575k if he hits 80.
With a break even of
32. Going into the Finns game, what are you calling that one?
60.
60? I'll go above 60. I reckon he stands up for that one. I'm going to call that one a 70. Even still, that's Adam Reynolds at 600k in 2 weeks, with a break even of 40 into the Tigers, which is at home.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah. Nuts.
That break even jumps a long way, doesn't it? That's what happens with it. And there's a really good example of the rolling break evens. Round 100 sits out it only sits in there for 1 week.
That's right. Yeah, that 100 drops out very quickly, doesn't it? So if the 100 was in for round 2, or even if he tons up in this one, he's going to have that big score in him for, 3 more weeks. But I reckon, yeah, at least this week against the Cows. God, I think it's going to be an absolute whitewash for the Broncos coming off that loss. But yeah, look, I really like the Reynolds play. I think it's got a lot of credit. I think anyone doing it's going to be rewarded for it. So
He's also,
good.
though, your prime candidate to bench when they go up by 20 odd points. Like,
Yeah, you put him on ice and hope his body holds out because they
so
can't
hopefully
really
he can
afford to
make
lose
one.
him. So.
Yeah.
Just another one too. I don't think there's too many people going to be leaning this direction. He's a bit dearer, 390k, but Isaiah Katoa, minus 14 break even. Decent
Love
run,
it.
but again, yeah,
I
he's
love
been
it.
really good for me in draft.
I had plenty of teams before I started this year with him in my halfback instead of Duffy. And I didn't do it because Duffy got named and was goal kicking was 198k. And so I lost 200k. I gained 200k to do it. Some of those teams that if I had ICAT in it with the other teams have actually done better than my team I've done now. So I kind of wish I had done it. I love it. I love the way he's playing. He's literally the only one for that Dolphins team, other than the first game when Plath dominated. He's literally been the only one that's turned it on and played a really good game. Oh, sorry, that's another lie. Isako had a pretty good game in round 1 too. But yeah, like I feel like he's running he's running that team. Like he scored a try last week. Yeah, I love that play. If I could get him in, I'd be getting him in. I can't do it. But yeah, love it.
Yeah, I just feel like between in that halfback position at 390k, for 50 odd less, you get Starling in the hooker if you can move Sandon, or you go to Humphreys, save 90 and probably make
Yeah.
it back. But yeah, he's been great. Yeah, very impressive, and he's holding up my fort in drafts until Moses is back. So I'll keep riding that train, waving the flag for Katoa. 5/8, couple of notable ones here, and basically just the Warriors too, to be fair, because they've just both been the most impressive to start off. Obviously not round 1 for Metcalf, but Jesus, Harris Tavita's look good. Scoring very consistently, very well. Obviously you've spoken that you're getting him in this week, minus 21. Yeah, hit rewind and listen to Trav's points because I'm freaking mad. And then Metcalf with an 11, so huge bounce back. Huge bounce back. A lot of people traded him out. I bet they're kicking themselves because 12 to a 117. Freaking hell, man. Where's the middle ground?
That's a tough thing to eat, man. That's a tough thing to eat.
That one hurts. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
stinger.
it
But again,
does.
it is what it is. Like,
That's Supercoach.
yeah, that's right. You can't expect him to score 12 again. So yeah, it's a bit of a rage trade, but it was always worth a hold. You can say that in hindsight easily. But yeah, no, the fifth, like if he scores, shit, he's actually going to go down in break evens again. He's got a lot of price rising to do. That
Yeah, because
117
he just
being
got
in his
117
week
his
2.
second game. Yeah.
Yeah, the week 2 for that 117 is going to ride him out really well. It's going to make him some bulk coins. So if he can put on a 50 against the Chooks, and then a 50 against the Tigers, Jesus Christ, he'll be 530 odd K with a 60 break even against the Melbourne game after their bye. So not nice, but still quick coin to make in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, but again, I don't know. If you traded him out, you're not trading him back in. It's a bit of
Did you
it's a
say
bit of a painful one.
530? Let's see, it's 90k. It's not as much as I was kind of hoping,
Mm.
but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but he was
sitting
not
at
bottom
about
dollar either. He's sitting in the mid 400s.
440. Yeah,
So yeah, it takes a bit considering he's got that 12 still in that first average for the price rise. Just a quick one as well. Adam Dewey, averaging 20, and he's got the goal kicking, so he's not a bad one if
break
you've got
even
him
20.
stashed in your center wing. Break even at 20. Sorry, yeah, averaging much more than that. Yeah, he's good. We kind of expected him to just sort of pot along and do his thing, and he was always undervalued with his potential and the kicking. So he's another option for you as well. So we'll get into the center wing now. There's tons of these guys here that are very highly owned. So just to run through some of the notable break evens for people that can't see them. Jesse Arthurs is a minus 82 break even, kind of tops the charts here. So he's a massive priority. You got to get him in. It's a lot of coin to miss out on if you don't have him and plan on fading him. He's obviously got a really low floor, but I don't think it matters. I think even with if he walks out and scores 1 point, he'll make 60k. So yeah, he's got to be at the top of your list this week to get in.
I don't even care about the low floor because I'm just so confident in that left side with the way that's happening. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. With he plays the left side. He's got the Cowboys this week. Tries, calling tries, so he's going to get that. He's got the Dolphins on the left again. I'm calling tries on that side too. And there's another game. And then he's got the Tigers in round 5. I'm calling at least one try in that game. I'd like to put on a bet and say that he scores one try each game for the next 3 games.
Ooh, I am all about that. I reckon he does too.
And that gives you a minimum 30 odd points, right? As in, that's what he's going to probably finish at the end of the game, at least.
Oh, if he does nothing else, and that's basically if he
That's
gets a
right.
line break in a try, was that automatically 27 points without any tackles or anything at all.
That's it. That's it.
And he's been busting tackles. He's been running through people. He's been busy, really busy. Like it's not really the Arthurs of old. Like we've kind of seen this new sort of form. Like he's just killing it since the
Tells you how good
preseason
that
games.
Hunt
Like he's
is.
so impressive. But yeah, obviously having Hunt on that side, it's just turned him into an absolute gun. Look, if he can come out and score even just a 60 against Queensland, which is say 2 tries and nothing else at all, that's over 100K of a price rise in a week. You got to get him in. It's a massive. It's a must. It's a clear must if you don't already have him.
Well, everyone is.
Yeah. Well,
26,000 people.
yeah. God, just a
12%.
good. I started with him in my centering 4. I was like, God, I hope this goes all right because we all
I
know
wish
it
I
could.
did that instead of getting Graham. I spent the money and get Graham instead.
Yeah, well, I've got him as well when he's out. Robert Toyer -70. He's very popular owned. I'd imagine that pretty much everyone that's either listening to a pod regarding Supercoach
Everyone's
or
got him.
even just getting him this week, you got him already. So yeah, -70. Really good things for him. I don't think he's going anywhere too. He's pretty well locked into that side, and I expect his price rises to be very similar to Arthur's with a much better base. So Tamale, -59 for Tamale. So you getting him in this week?
I'm not. No, unfortunately, I'm
Ooh,
not. And I
damn.
can't. I would like
Fading.
to, but I can't. I've decided to go Arthur's instead of Tamale. So I'd rather find the money to get Arthur's. I can only do one of them. So
Okay.
Graham down to Arthur's has helped me go Duffy up to Starling. And obviously I'm getting weeks out, which I think is a priority. So weeks down. That's currently what I'm looking at. So no, I'm not getting Tamale, but love it. Love people who are doing it. I've told lots of people, messaged, spoke to our legends, get Tamale, he's got to come in.
Yeah. And that's the big one between the most popular trade-ins at the moment. It's between Arthur's and Tamale. Like it's very valid. If you can get both, sweet. You're going to make some bulk coin. If you can only get one, yeah, I'm kind of in the Arthur's camp, to be honest. I just think with what they've got going at the moment and what's coming, I just think he's in for it. And like I don't know, I don't want to be that guy that's sort of fear mongering, but like there's still Hopawati there. Like
Yeah,
I'm bringing in Tamale
job
this week,
security is not
and
job security is
security's
not great.
still in the back of my mind. I'm thinking like,
Yeah,
where do you go from Tamale if nothing happens? Um, so yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I still really like to play. I think he's an absolute gun. And the Raiders have been better for it too. Like, big improvement on the side. Like you can't knock him for it. Next one that I've got up here is Jason Saab. So obviously, yeah, the volatility of Saab comes into play, but with a -53 break even, I think he's at least worth a shout. He could be a very viable Turbo down play if Turbo is named, if he's not named to start, and he's sitting in your flex. I don't mind it for a very, very quick cash grab. I still think he could do pretty well with it, but again, it's like how well does Saab go without Turbo in the side?
and history suggests not great. He's had 2 scores of over 100. He's 528K, 107 against the Cowboys, 114 against New Zealand. Got a good test this weekend against a good Raiders team. I think that's a really good test. But I think even with a baseline of around maybe 50 this week, he's still going to price. He's still going to have a big increase in price. And obviously it will remain pretty good going into round 4 because he's got 114 sitting in his rolling average. So He's a really good option. I like it.
Big time. I've got some numbers here for Saab too, with and without Turbo in the side. So, funnily enough, he's actually played more games without Turbo than he has with him. And I would say that's to do with, obviously, injury. But for games that he has played with Turbo, he averages 58. There's 41 of those games. So he's averaging 58. In 4 games as well. But without Turbo in the side, it's a pretty drastic drop. He averages 40, and that's in 44 games. So it's a pretty even sample size. You're almost looking at the same amount of games overall. Both of them with a base of 20. So it's pretty bad again but he's not known for his base work. He just runs the line, scores bloody extravagant tries. But yeah, it's a pretty hefty drop in average. It's almost 20 points without him. Again, his averages are never really a 50 or a 60. They're more of like a 12 or 100. And he finds himself somewhere in the middle. So yeah, it is a very risky business play, and I don't know. I just don't know if I'd do it without Turbo in the side. But again, the negative break even is appealing. There's definitely money to be made. The next one that I do have on my list, so that I like much, much more, is Christian Tuipulotu. Very similar break even, minus 52 on a buy this week. God, that left side of the Dragons looks good. I think he's on for it this year. What do you reckon?
He's been enormous.
Massive.
I'm just pulling up his numbers now, but I've just really enjoyed watching him too. Like it's just been so nice to even just watch the way he's playing. 552k minus 52. Currently owned as of round 2 in 3% of teams. He's going to be a huge pod play. Against the Bulldogs, he got 128, and then against South, he got a 99.
Yeah, massive.
Has a bye this weekend, though, so you're not getting him this week, and then has to play Melbourne in the week after. So, yeah. But, yeah, this is just stupid stats. Like, he's then got Power, he's then got Gold Coast, he's then got Manly, he's then got Sydney, he's then got the Roosters, sorry, then he's got the West Tigers. Like, he's got a good run. Yeah, I really like it and really like the way he's playing, but not yet.
Yep, no, I agree. I really like the way that he's out there too, and I think outside of Holmes, he's obviously going to make points, but the Storm game does hurt. I don't think he scores too well against them. No one really does. But again, like if you can get together a 40, he'll go up 70 odd K with a 57 break even into a Parramatta game. And the sky's the limit with Parra at the moment. So I do like it. Hey, I think with the ownership and just the pod play in general, and I think it's just a fun personal watch.
Yes.
And I think the Dragons in general are just a team that are quite interesting this year because of all the changes. And look, I'd be very tempted to do that play. So I like it. He's my out of the two. Obviously, Sub's the one playing this week, but man, I'd be all over Tuipulotu if he was starting this round. So a couple of the next one, a couple of cheapies. Obviously, Shibasaki with a minus 43, very popular, owned already. Xavier Savage is named again, so he won't get a price change, but he's minus 23 is still rolling through. So we'll see what happens to him next round. I've got Stafford Tower in here with a minus 14, same position as Savage again, only one game. So yeah, that could be an appealing one as well if you need a cash down. He's only 280k. Anything on those three, man?
Not really. I think Savage and Toya is a watch and see what happens. Shibasaki's already owned. I'm actually going to reserve Shibasaki this weekend.
I'm tossing that up in between him and Toya. So yeah, I don't mind the Shibasaki reserve this week against the Cows. It could be massive.
Yeah.
A couple of higher value players, not exactly cheapies, but this is a former absolute gun. This is a guy that almost, he did top the center wing charts in 2023. Greg Marzio with a minus 5. We're seeing basically Marzio at his damaging best, aren't we? Like he's looking fantastic.
Absolute beast, hey. I've got him in my team. He's not going anywhere. He's priced at 513k with an average of 83.5 with one try.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Just want to put that out there. Only has one try. It's just all work. Like just watching him last weekend, it was just so good to watch him. It's just get the ball, have a run, tackle bust, offload. God, man, It's just all work. It's so good. He's He's a better front rower than he is a bloody centre.
Pretty much, eh? Even him and Best inside him too. They're just nuts. But he's and that's the thing too. Like we're talking about Margie score as it is at the moment. Um, he's probably like Best has probably bombed. I don't know, maybe 40 points out of what Margie could have potentially scored so far as well. So yeah, like look, he's just doing everything right. Glad to own him. If you don't have him, I'd want to get him, especially with his -4. Again, they've got the bye next week, so it's like it's kind of a tricky one. Um, but again, like look, they play the Titans. He could score 80 against the Titans as well, which I reckon he probably does. He's going up roughly 50, 60K. I still don't mind the price. I'd still happily buy Greg Marzi for less than 600.
Yeah.
You're very surprised if he doesn't. So he's one of those guys that you could probably wait a week on. But I still feel like you want him because yeah, he's looking exactly like he was a couple years ago. Um, Next one is very, I'm very keen on this next fella anyway. But Jack Howarth -5 as well. So he's obviously playing Penrith this week. Prices won't change till next week, but yeah, I think he's worth a look. 426K -5. Yeah, it was really good in round one when he scored 95,
Yeah.
90 something. Really?
Against Para in a
Yeah,
game that we had 46 in the first half.
yeah, exactly.
I
So
think Howe's in for a big year, and I called it towards the end of last year, and a few people have. The center, he's locked that center spot. It's his role. Once he played that center and then took out a couple of those games, he averaged like over 60 in the center spot, which is elite numbers.
yeah,
And he's certainly someone I would like to get. I would love to, in an ideal world, be able to get Howarth this week because I just can't get everyone next week. It's one of those questions of how I fit this and what I do next week. Yeah, I really, really like Howarth and think he's a really good play.
yeah. No, definitely. Storm players are going to be mass traded in the next couple of weeks too. So I suppose if you want to jump the gun and get one in now, saves you having a rush towards all the players next round. But yeah, focus on your break evens at the same point. But yeah, no, Howarth is an absolute weapon. And the last one that I sort of highlighted at the moment is obviously a lot of center wings that have low break evens, but it's Mark Nawangawingatasi. He has looked phenomenal in that Roosters team, which has looked quite bad to start. -4 break even. Man, he's very appealing. He looks freaking good, especially out there in the centers, and he's possibly going to get thrown out to the wing probably soon enough anyway. Where do you sort of stand with Marky Mark, man? Are you someone that you've humoured at all as a trade in?
No, I haven't humored it all. I haven't thought about it. I like the numbers. I like what he's doing, but yeah, I'm not going there. I've got other things to do, much more of a priority, and I'd rather look. To be fair, if I was going to go a mid-pricer in my centers, I'd be going Howarth before I go Marky Mark.
Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree with that one too, and that's why I put them next to each other. But either way, like he's been pretty good. He's looked fantastic actually out of that side because they've been rubbish. But 57 and 86 last week. And you got to remember too, like he's only played 3 games of NRL,
Yeah, the last game last year, and now 2 games
and
this year.
these two, and he hasn't put a bad score up. Put a
No.
62 up last year, and then he's done these ones now. Like he's just a talent. So I think I think there's definitely you've got to put some sort of credit to him. But again, to your point, I haven't really looked at a way to get him in, and if I'm going to do it, I think I'm going to bring in Howarth before him. So yeah, um, just a quick couple notable fullbacks. Clint Gutherson, mate.
Wow, hey, the king
What
is back.
what is going on?
All Para fans are sitting there going, "Oh man, um, what could have been?" They all say. Minus
Wild.
46, hey,
Yeah.
600K.
Yep.
On the
Highest
bye
scoring
this week.
player in Supercoach too at the
Yep,
moment.
on the bye this week, the ball is just in his hands. You got to get him. Even though they play the Storm next weekend on their return from the bye, I don't care. I think Gutho's the type that, with the way that he's playing at this point in time, he will still score a decent score against them. But you want them for that price rise. He's got a 100 score that's going to sit in a rolling average for a long time for another week. Yeah, I'm very tempted to try and get him in next week.
And it's not a 100 score, it's 146. It's freaking stupid scores. He's got 146 last week and 113 in round one. Look, a minus 45 at his price, playing into Melbourne. Look, who knows what he does, but the ball's on his hands constantly. Every try assist, every line break assist, basically everything. It seems to be got Gutho's name all over it. So, yeah, that break even that he's going to carry into is going to really help because again, if he cops something even mediocre against Melbourne in round four, what do you reckon? Mediocre for Gutho, a 60?
60, yeah. 60. Well, I mean, I've seen Gutho with pretty low scores, and I've owned him when he's had them. But
I just think in this
yeah,
side,
I
he's
think
doing
this
too
year is
much to
different.
score less.
In this team, he's doing a lot more, and the team's better than the para team that he's been in. So I think it allows for assists and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think a 60, 65 as a base next week against the Storm.
So hypothetically, oh, Jesus, the 60 of Melbourne puts him into a Parramatta game at Para. So that's going to be massive for Gutho. I don't feel like he scores poorly in that game. I think he's going to try and prove a point. At that game, so he's 675 currently. He'll be 750k if he scores a 60 against Melbourne with a 32 break even. If he goes into that Para game and scores a ton against them, he's going to be 800k by round six. That is nuts. And round six against the Titans at home. So look, I genuinely think like Gutho's got to be a play next week.
It's a good play next week. Yeah, we'll talk about that next week in the pod.
Yeah,
Ponga
100%.
to him is a good play. I wouldn't be doing it now, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. So that's a next week special for that one. Um, Iongi with a minus 20. I think he's in a very popular cash here already. I wouldn't trade him in. I've got a lot of doubts around Parramatta Eels in general, and if I didn't have Iongi, I probably wouldn't be looking at him at all. But again, the negative 20 is handy. You sort of take the price rise while you can get it. I don't know how many there will be. Um, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have many thoughts about it. I'm very concerned about having him in my team, but at minus 20 for that, playing for a para team that I think he has that spot his own. He hasn't looked bad. He's looked okay. It's just that the team around him has just been so poor.
Hmm.
I think if they've given him those two games, they're going to give him a lot more. They'll just ride the wave. I think everyone else can just ride the wave and pick whether you want to play him or not.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, well, I suppose this week it just depends on what the turbo owners do with him. I can't assume everybody has turbo, but yeah, look, he's going to make some coin, and you will just probably jump off him as soon as you can and find someone that looks good. And if he's in your flex, you can basically rotate anyone for a week if you need to. But yeah, that's kind of where I was sitting for like the break even side, the negatives anyway. Like there's obviously the highly traded out players are the ones that the ones that are concerning at the most, but um, yeah, you just got to work a way to get these dudes in, man. Like you got to be boosting, prioritize your cash, and just sort of see where it sits. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess where are you sort of sitting? I know that you're bringing in Harris Tavita. We'll talk about our trades anyway while the iron's hot.
I've got a few options at the moment. I've sat there, and if I have a look currently, what I've done. I've gone Duffy out. Sorry, I've gone Campbell Graham down to Arthur's. Just got it. He's a must get. I've got to get him.
Yep.
Duffy is a must trade out. I've used that cash to go Duffy to Starling. I think Starling's a must get in. I think I think Arthur's and Starling are the two cheapies that you have to get. And I have to get rid of Weeks this week. I just feel like I don't like the scores. I don't like the potential of what's happening. I have to get rid of him, and to be able to do that, there were two options. I could go Weeks. I don't mind the Dewey play, but I think just Harris Tavita with what he's been able to do, his price at 330, it's given me exactly 200,400 to play with to do that trade. So I've gone down Weeks, down Graham, up Duffy to Starling, Harris Tavita, and Arthur's. Unfortunately, what that means is I miss out on Payne Haas. I can't do it at this point in time. To be able to do that, I could potentially do that. But I don't have. I'd have to. It'd have to be like a hop good to him to be able to do that. So yeah, I've just got to eat it. I've got to eat some bits and pieces and miss out on something. I can't have everybody. I'm happy to get anything above 1,200 again, and continue to move. It's still only round 3. There's 24 more rounds, and as we can see this week, there's going to be a lot of adjustments. There are a lot of people who own Dylan Lucas are having to get rid of him. There are a lot of people who own Barnett are wanting to look at getting rid of him. So yeah, anything can sort of happen in Supercoach. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. It may change, but that's what I'm thinking about at this point in time.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I like it. It's just a shame, obviously, about having to fade out Haas for a week or so. But again, like you can just get him. You might have to just bite the bullet a little bit. But yeah, no, I like it. I think overall, net win, you make some big coin out of that. I'm doing similar things. I am trading out Graham and Duffy as well, but I am also trading out Hopgood this week. Just haven't really loved it, to be honest. Hasn't been great, but I am bringing in. I'm moving Sandon Smith down into my halfback slot for Duffy. I'm bringing in Starling, like I mentioned. I'm bringing in Tamale for Campbell Graham, and I was bringing in Lucas for Hopgood. I was pretty well locked in. I was so settled on my trades. I wasn't even really pondering out other options, and it was just done and dusted for me. Even with the Turbo news, I'm not really looking to trade him out at all. I think I might just see what happens, so I'm not too fussed. But yeah, if Lucas is out, Jesus, I just went, God, now I've got to bloody go back to the drawing board. I had 900k to spend in that position with the outs that I've got. Basically just looking to fill either a front or second row with all the duels that I had. And I was tossing up, like I really wanted to get Eli Katoa next week. And I wanted Dylan Lucas this week, and I was just going to obviously play him off the bye and not worry about his score next round. But I think I'm going to jump the gun a week, and I'm just going to get Eli Katoa now. As soon as I saw Jenkins was named at fullback, I just thought, God, Eli Katoa is going to run over him. Probably at least 1 or 2 times. Like it's gonna be a good watch. So yeah, I'm very keen to get Eli Katoa in my side. I did think about getting in Fanua Blake. I haven't seen too many people looking at bringing in Fanua Blake. You know, everyone's sort of looking in the other direction with Haas and Tino. But when I looked into it, Fanua Blake's like 27% owned.
Is
I was
he?
like, when did that happen?
We've slept on him. Fanua Blake, I'm not the biggest fan of getting Fanua Blake in just yet, because I think the Sharks are going to, I think Fanua Blake's a very easy candidate for a rest. I think at some point around halfway through the season, Fanua Blake's going to be a fair bit cheaper than what he is now. And I don't think we're going to feel like we've missed a lot of points out of him when we've got the likes of May, Haas, Tino, etc. So, I'm happy not to own Fanua Blake at this point in time.
I kind of only wanted to do it because then that would mean I would have Payne Haas, May, Tino, and Fanua Blake in my front row.
It was just a flex.
And there's some beefy boys, man. That is a flex and a half. So I just wanted to just go get the top 4 and just ride it. And then I'll have Corey Horsburgh as well, but he'd probably be sitting in my second row. Yeah, I'm just all about the front rowers at the moment. They're just doing it for me. But yeah, I think I'll go around the other way. I'll get Eli Katoa in now. I was doing some, whiteboard math that I love doing for next round, and I was basically trying to get the stars to align for me to really hope. And I was working with fine margins of about 10k, I think 9.5k, with 2 players changing price that I needed specific scores. So instead of having to worry about that, roll the dice, I might just rip the band-aid off and do it now. If he scores poorly against Penrith, so be it. It is what it is. But he's one of those guys that I got in early last year and kept him for the whole season and loved it always. So I think that's where I'll be going. I've already got a couple of Melbourne guys too, like Munster's in the side already. I've already got Arthur's, Toya, Purdue. I think next week will be a Purdue to Howarth move. I've already got the coin in the bank for that too. So I'm trying to obviously plan ahead and do that. I do recommend that too. I would suggest if you're going to be making these break-even trades, at least have an idea for your next 1 or 2, because there's a good chance you're probably going to boost next week. There's still break-evens to come next week that are going to be quite low. Obviously, Nicholson, Savage, there's a few Raiders that have been suspended. Top of my head, there's a couple others as well anyway that you can look into. The Titans, anyone from Melbourne, The Dragons too now. Like they're all going to obviously upgrade in price next round. So there's a whole another week of price changes. Round 4 is going to be pretty big too because they're very relevant to Supercoach teams. On that, VCs and Cs. What are you looking at?
Currently, my VC's on Cleary. Even though I just think there's a bounce back game. This game on Thursday night till tomorrow night is just going to be sick. I can't wait to watch it. I think Cleary has a bounce back game and plays really well. I still predict the Storm to win the game, but I think with no Dylan Edwards and a few changes and bits and pieces, the ball's just literally going to be in Cleary's hands and he's going to steer that ship for everything. So I've got the VC on him. Another option, I don't have him, but for those that do, Haas against the Cowboys Friday night is a really good shout out for a VC. I think he's just going to dominate the Cowboys. So I think that's a really good shout out for the VC if you don't want to take the risk against the Storm. And my captain is Ponga against the Titans. That just screams points to me.
Yeah. No,
a nice dry Saturday night at Seabus Stadium on the Gold Coast. I'll take that.
100%. I am looking at a VC on Haas, so pretty keen to roll that. I'd be pretty curious to see what he'd need to score for me to actually loop him in, though. I don't know. We'll see. I'd probably want something like a 130 if I've got Ponga playing the Titans up there. But yeah, it's just for the vibe, really. He just looks so freaking good. I might even switch that over to Eli Katoa as well. But I don't know. I like VCing guys that I just trade in for the Juju. I mentioned that last year as well. It's just, back the guys that you just brought. You know what I mean? There's got to be a bit of faith put into them. So I could do that just to keep the roll going. But yeah, I'm looking at a Ponga captain as well. Just see how that runs out. What about your reserves?
I just looked at the weather too. There's a prediction of 0 to 4 mil on the Gold Coast, so it won't be as dry in the on the Gold Coast for that game. But I still think it's Ponga. My reserves, I'm sitting on at the moment Shibasaki, Metcalf, Seyfarth, and I'm deciding whether I want to 1, 2, 3. I'm deciding whether I want to do it on Sandon Smith or Mamazelis at this point in time.
Fair. Oh, you're playing Starling, obviously.
Yeah.
Look, I'm playing Mamazelis this week and Starling. I've got a chip on Starling. I've got Corey Horsburgh as well because my front row is, May and Haas. And then scrolling down, I've got Metcalf with it on as well. And I'm tossing up between him and Sandon because they're obviously playing each other. But I think just Metcalf probably is what he's got to offer. And then the last one's on Tommy Turbo. So I'm pretty happy with my reserves this week. They're quite strong. It would just mean that I'm playing Arthur's, potentially a swap between, I've got Rabbitohs in my starting lineup. Could be Shibasaki. I just want to leave Tamale on the bench this week, just on the chance that Turbo isn't playing, that I can just take it off him and put it onto Tamale and then just have that playable option. But yeah, look, the centre wings have been quite good. It's kind of stressful actually going into this week, with 5 cheapies at the moment. I've got Garrick, I've got Marzu, and then it goes straight to Arthur's and Toya, Shibasaki, Tamale, and Purdue. So I'm just going hard on the cashies. But look, one of those is going to change next week anyway with the money I've got. I just got to write it out for this week. But yeah, when you stack the beefy boys up top, I'm hoping the base at least holds up the fort a little bit. So yeah, it's pretty good run. So I know we had a couple of questions in the Legends group. Did you by chance have those ones?
I do, and I'm just going to pull it up right now. And
beautiful.
Here we go.
Yeah, these boys get pretty. A lot of questions get thrown around the Legends group. I bloody love it. They keep you on your toes.
Join it. It's a good shout out to join it. My Facebook on my computer just died, but here we go. We've got 7 questions. So the first question is from Jason Polisi, who's our resident legal advisor, and he says, WTF is this season? And how do I start again? Just wanted to have a bit of a laugh.
Jace, I want to see your team, mate. There's been some monster scores getting around. Like, what have you missed out on?
Yeah, would
Come on, show us what you're working with.
he keeps talking about how bad it is, but yeah, let's actually have a look at it.
Yeah.
From Alexander Salamander, what a cool name. This is my first year doing Supercoach, and I've heard people talking about captain slash VC vice captain looping. I think a quick explanation would be super helpful.
Okay, so we have spoken about the loop, and there's plenty of avenues to find some information about looping. But again, you asked the question. Basically, what you want to be doing is chucking the VC on a player that plays before your captain. And if they score massively, say 120, and you're happy and you're like, cool, if that was a captain score, I'd take it. You basically just leave the VC on them. You get a non-player off your bench, and you put them in your starting lineup, and you chuck the captaincy on them. They have to be non-playing. They can't come off the bench or play a minute or so. They need to be straight up not playing that round. Make sure they are not playing. And with that, what will happen is your VC will then become your captain's score, and you will then get the lowest score off your bench. And now the benefit of that with the flex this year is that the flex is getting rid of the lowest score as well. So basically, what it's looking like is essentially the flex, if they're higher than your lowest score, are basically voiding that AE anyway. Um, so yeah, it's a really good look at a free loop with no real risk, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's very popular, and I think this year is an awesome way to do it. And yeah, you'd be doing yourself an injustice if you weren't taking advantage of the option of that flex and the free loop. So basically, put a VC on someone who's playing first. If they kill it and you're happy with their score, captain a non-player.
Yeah.
You're set.
Perfect example is last week I VC'd Ponga, 129 points on that Thursday night. I wanted to keep that, so I swapped Horsburgh in for my Nuff of Simpkin. Simpkin, then I put the C on Simpkin and made sure I put the reserve on Horsburgh, and got my A score, but my loop of a double up of Ponga. So when he went from 129 to his 258, so I doubled up on him and then got the AE score, which dropped out of my 17. So my worst score was Goz at 18, and he dropped out of my 17 scores. He was my 18th score. Unfortunately, my 17th score was Kyle Weeks with 21, but we're not going to go there.
That's it.
But yeah, that was just a prime example of that. So hopefully that answers that. Good explanation there, Jesse. The next question is from James Beckman, very engaged in a lot of our conversations, a lot of our pods, in our draft. So is it worth losing RTS or Garrick to get Tamale? If you already have cheapies like Arthurs, Shiba, Purdue, Toya in your center wings? I feel like that should be more than enough to make some money.
It is a tricky one, isn't it? Because I am bringing in Tamale, but for Campbell Graham, who has not done really anything super relevant. When it comes to RTS, like, look, he's not lit the world on fire, but he hasn't scored poorly. Um, he's still going to make coin, I reckon, too. He's got a 38 break even, so like you're gonna miss out a bit on him. It plays the Roosters, plays the Tigers, then they've got a bye in round 5. I don't know. If I had RTS, I probably wouldn't be looking to trade him, but again, at the same time, like I'd be trying to find something with a bit more upside. So it just depends on if you wanted to use that 200 and what is it? Almost 300k, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
bit
So the
over
point
300.
is that one of the points is that he mentioned is that Tamale and RTS are averaging the same, basically the same, for a hell of
Yeah,
a lot cheaper. But the risk is
yeah,
obviously this is a rookie,
yeah.
and he's a cheap price for a reason.
Yeah, well, look, if you're going to go about it that way and they're averaging near about the same, then I'd be more inclined to look at Garrick. Unfortunately, I don't really like to think about trading Garrick out. He's not on my radar to trade out. But look, Garrick is 680k, hasn't done anything massive this year, and he's not exactly threatening and lighting the world on fire. So if it was for something very short, temporary, and a quick cash grab, that might be worth a play. But again, you've got a lot of coin coming in. Like we've all got those 4. They're very popular. Um, for Tamale, who again, like I am bringing in, but it's job security risk. I wouldn't trade Garrick to Tamale myself. I'm not. I've got other, people to trade out. But it's a tricky question, man. I don't know.
The point is right.
Depend.
How many cheapies are too many?
Yeah.
But the other side of this too is cheapies don't get you points, right? Or necessarily, and points are king. Garrick is king, and has the potential to score monster scores. I don't think that's a good play. I don't mind the RTS down to Tamale. Geez, I wish I had that luxury to make that. But that's a nice trade. But yeah, I wouldn't go Garrick down, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would say,
Question.
yeah.
A
No,
question
that's
from
it.
Alan Dim. After the blowouts in round 1, some teams came crashing down to earth in round 2, which has made many matchups this weekend interesting. As there are injuries to Turbo, Dylan Lucas, etc., who's going to be the player that must lose this weekend, and why? That busts lose this weekend, and why?
I don't really know the question, to be honest. I suppose he's basically just asking who's going to crash out this weekend and why.
Yeah, with Turbo and Dylan Lucas out. Yep.
Jeez, I wish I could see into the future. I'd win Supercoach. Yeah, look, I don't really know how to get around the question, to be honest with you, man. You can message us and sort of, allude a little more for it. But it did, look, there was a lot of bounce backs. The Vegas game kind of threw half the teams out. They came back and won as well. Good chunk of them, except the Cows. But look, there was a big bounce back week from one to the other. I suppose we'll see how things are going for the rest of them. But look, you got a pretty good matchups this round. Like if I was to see the Rabbitohs on a roll at the moment beat the Sharks, I'd be pretty surprised and pretty impressed by them for the run that they've got going. If I saw the Raiders take out Manly, but again, the Raiders are second, they're flying. So these teams are doing one thing or another. To watch the Eels beat the Dogs, that could be a huge game. So there's definitely potential for massive upsets this week. I don't think you're going to find an upset bigger than the Roosters beating Penrith probably for the entire season. But I suppose at an individual standpoint and player to player sort of point of view, price wise here and there, God, I wish I knew. I wish I could tell you, because I'd be trading the good ones in and I'd be trading the shit ones out.
Next question from Michael Johnson. This is only my second year of Supercoach. Are the scores we've seen from the first 2 rounds standard or well above average? Finding myself stressing about making trades for points to stand a chance already, only 2 rounds in. Any tips for making up the ranks after a below average start?
Definitely above average. Quite massively above average. This is sort of the scores that you'd kind of get in the back end of the season on a consistent basis. So yeah, look, we strive to build our teams towards these final teams where you can score 12, 1300 consistently. We've just been super lucky that the guys that we got in for 200k are scoring 80, 90 points. And it's sort of allowed you to get those massive scores without having all the guns. The plan's still the same. The plan's sort of make that coin, trade them up to more consistent guns because, I can't imagine that it's sustainable for a lot of these guys, but it's just been very convenient that it's sort of kicked off nice and early. It just depends on how far back you are in the pack, man. I come back from, 85,000 into the top 800 last year. With a late push at the end too. And then you've got obviously the buy rounds to contend with. There's a lot of ground to cover in buy rounds if you're worried about trying to make up ground. And, you can see rank positions between myself at 600, ranked 6,000, and the person that ranked 2,000. There's one good score in that game. There's probably 40, 50 points between us, if that. So that's a good captain. That's, something that just goes your way that week, or a nice trade, or someone that just cracks a 140. If you get a Guffo in and he keeps doing it, you know what I mean? There's not a lot in it, especially early days. The scores are really condensed, so I wouldn't be super stressed if you're I think Trav's position at the moment. What are you, Trav, rank
34.
wise? 34,000. You're not that far behind me. 2 weeks you can jump me if I have 2 bad runs and do something silly. Get a wrong captain who scores 40 points. He's not going to drop out of your loop. You're just going to have a bad captain score. Anything can happen, especially when you got Ponga doing 130s, you know what I mean? So yeah, don't stress about trying to, make ground and, panic trade and trying to claw your way back. I think there's definitely lots of time to go between now and the end, and you'll be surprised how much things change.
Good answer. Jason Two more. Jason Murphy, I'm in the top 3% overall for Classic and haven't had to do any trades. I hear everyone wanting to boost this week. My team seems solid. Is it worth chasing the 1 or 2 cash cows I don't have, or hold firm and save my trades?
I suppose valid question. I'm in the top 4% overall, so we're pretty pretty up there. You'd probably be in the top 4,000, I would imagine, give or take. Look, if you haven't had to do any trades, then you're just sweet. It's only been a week of trading anyway. I traded last week as a luxury. I traded out Angus Crichton just because I wanted Haas in quickly because I just like what I saw. But look, you don't need to, but I would definitely recommend it. Like, if you've got all the guys that are making coin, and the only way to trade out someone to get someone who's a cashy is by trading out, low break evens, I probably wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way to just try and get these guys in because they're popular. But I think if there's definitely options there, like, I don't know, I'd have to see your team, man. To be honest, if you want to send it through, I'd be more than happy to have a squeeze. You're doing better than I am, so I don't know what I can really improve on your side. But yeah, look,
There'd have to be, to
there's
be
got to be
honest,
one or two
there'd
at
have to be
least.
1 or 2. Yeah, there's
Yeah, there
definitely
has to be.
trades to be made, and here's the time to do it. Hold out your trades next week or the week after, and or whatever. Make
Yep.
those trades now and fix it. There'll be 1 or 2 guys that you don't like that's not over superly performing, or there's a cheapie you've missed. Get it.
Yeah.
Make that 1 or
Yeah.
2 trades. But yeah, definitely send us a message, Jason.
Hmm.
And Rodney, is Jesse a trap and go back to his old ways in scoring for Supercoach? Oops, I mean Mr. Arthurs.
Yeah, good old banter between me and Rod sometimes on the Legends group. I love him. Yeah, no, look, he could be. He very well could be, but I don't see it. I like what I've seen the last 2 weeks. I like the effort. I like the rate. I like the try scoring potential with Hunt there. And even still, look, if he is a trap, he's got a minus 82 break even right now. Get him in. He scores 20 points and then he backs it up with another 20 points. You know what? He's still making money even with those 20s. And then, yeah, I suppose you just go, look, it's back to reality for Jesse Arthurs, and you just take your 150, 200K to the bank and then move him on. I think, regardless, you're getting him in. That's what I'd be doing.
Last question. Hey, Legends, this trade has got me thinking a lot. And if in doubt, it's probably best to not do it. This is also from Rodney. Campbell Graham to Saab. It's not for the cash, even though that helps, but it will allow me to hold Saab for a couple of weeks and then move to Dylan Lucas with the cash made. Thoughts?
Yeah, I see it. I see the point there. If the plan's to get Dylan Lucas and Saab's obviously a short grab, yeah, sweet. Like if Dylan Lucas providing he's back in round 6 from his little minor hamstring injury there, yeah, why not? You know what I mean? Like I think that's when the Manly run times it seems to tighten up a little bit. They have Penrith and then a bye, and then it does get a bit trickier for him. So I definitely want to move Saab on before then, but I think he might, cap out on his price point. Dylan Lucas will be still probably the same price, 617. Yeah, I would if that's the game plan. And Campbell Graham, I'm trading him out this week. He's going to lose coin, not a massive amount, but he's definitely losing some. Yes, if you want to do it now, you kind of have to do it this week so you can get it all. But again, I don't mind, another play around. Tuipulotu could be a bit more fun than Saab. I feel like he just does a bit more to it. But yeah, look, man, if that's your game plan, I can't see a fault in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that question. And answer. And Manly have this week they've got the Raiders, then they play Parramatta, then they've got the Storm, then the Sharks, then the Dragons, and then round 8 it's Penrith. So it does tighten up a
Yeah.
bit in a couple of weeks' time.
I suppose ideally you just trade him out after the Eels game.
Yeah.
When they play the Storm, just boot him then for Lucas if he's back.
Sweet
Cool.
as. That's the questions, man.
All right, man. Well, that's pretty much going to wrap this one up, I'd say. Obviously a bit longer than the normal one, 2 hours now, I'd say. But yeah, look, it's a big week. It's a lot of changes, a lot of a lot of money and a lot of fluctuations of teams are going to come through, and it's going to start to see the template change a lot. Especially if people are cashing out on turbo money, for example. But yeah, it's a big one. Look forward to next week as well because there's going to be some more prices coming. But yeah, no, that's all for this one here, and thank you, Trav. It's been good. Always good with you, man. I have a pleasure. Yeah, enjoy your Supercoach week and have fun. Any
I
final words,
will.
mate?
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Hey, all Jesse and I's final captains, reserves, what we'll do is all going to be posted in our Legends group. So just click through our Facebook page, get into our Legends as a subscriber. It's $2.99 a month, not $2.99 a week. It's $2.99 a month, Jesse.
Yes.
So come on
Definitely.
in and join the crew. There's a great conversation that we have and good banter.
That's it. Yeah, the crew's great. Legends are on, and yeah, have a good one. Enjoy your week.